So again, I've been asked basically over the years here to go over my saber faces with everybody, basically to give you guys a little bit of a status update. I thought this was be a good video for you guys, just to give you guys some idea of where I stand. So pretty much all of these saber faces are in P5 with one exception. The one exception is actually Surfmo. I did not roll the cancerous banner that we had basically, I think it was last year on NA, that had no actual rate up, and so I kind of just let that one slide and said, look, I know she's probably going to come back as part of the Apocrypha campaign later on with Semiramis, who's actually one of the other few units that I don't have on my NA account. So I said, I'll just try to, kill two birds with one stone. We'll get her there and we'll max her out. So at that point, then finally, every single Saberface in the game released on NA should be in P5 for me. Obviously, though, we have two new Saberfaces coming out this year, so role plans are going to be to NP5 Okitan Saber and obviously Morgan Le Fay. Now, I've had a lot of people actually ask me, hey, am I going to NP5 Morgan all at once, or am I going to spread it out over several of the banners that she has? Smart money would be to spread it out over several banners, because that's going to be pity, but I'm the Saberface guy, and I really just want all the Saberfaces in P5, so I'm going to do it right away. The only reason someone like, again, Surfmo isn't is because that actually harkens back to a time where I was not rolling in P5 of all the Saberfaces and hadn't really established that as a goal. So I've been doing that. I've been moving forward with that and trying to get every single one of them. And yes, even Arthur here is in P5 for me. He actually just got done earlier in the year, because I finally pulled the trigger on that one despite kind of having cold feet for several years, and mostly just due to the fact that they had never really upgraded him. Plus, he technically doesn't have the Saberface trait. He just has Arthur trait. But I said, hey, he's pretty much an honorary Saberface at that time, just being the only male one. But again, all of my units here, as you guys can see, are either 999 or 10s. And basically, the current Grail project is actually right now going to be Lartoria. She's on her way to 120. I actually have more Grails than this. I just haven't really progressed it. In fact, I believe we're 2 Grail short at the moment of me getting her to 120 with the now completion of the Grail front. So I should be getting one more at minimum from Lost Belt 6, which has 2. It just depends on the availability of those banners and when it all comes out. But then I should be as well getting another one from the GSSR this year at Anniversary, so I can anticipate at least by Anniversary having the capability to be done with Lartoria. And at that point then, the world's my oyster. I'm going to be having obviously available Grails for a lot of other things, but I think probably the next target at that point is going to be OG Saber, who I do not have up at 120 yet. But again, I have an entire support list at this point of Saber faces, particularly Artoria faces, that are all level 100, so that shouldn't be too hard of a stretch. I definitely have the coins for her. I've had numerous people ask me if I'm going to roll for NP6 of these units in order to get them maxed out. The one thing you don't see here is my appends, and because of that, I have very strategically chosen to not pursue appends on certain units in order to get them still to 120, because I know I'm probably going to be taking them there. So if I felt like getting the third append was going to get in the way because maybe it was a limited unit rather than a permanent unit that I may have been spooked by a couple times, I held back on that and didn't do it. So like, for instance, with actual OG Lartoria there, I have her first 2 appends unlocked and maxed out. I do not have her third append maxed out because that one's anti-ruler. It's not a huge deal. There's no real big reason for me to do it. But again, that is... I basically have a lot of my units appends already worked up. Most of them are to 9s for where I can get them, or 10 in the case of mana loadings. I basically started with the mana loadings and focused on those because I know how critical they can be for farming aspects and stuff like that. Doubly so for someone like me that does, like, whenever we get new story chapters, for instance, LB6 here, I'm going to be doing Saberface only runs of the LB6 chapter, which... not as hard nowadays that we have Castoria, but I started doing them all the way back in Babylonia and have completed all of them since, only using one command seal ever. And it was a charged command seal that I used all the way back on the Doggo back in Shinjuku. He was the hardest one for me because we didn't have any sort of moon cancers at the time, and the Saberface runs tend to be kill or be killed moments. They do not have a lot of survivability, at least prior to Castoria, prior to, again, you know, certain units getting upgrades as well. So it really helped out to have that extra oomph there. But that was the only one I ever had to do. And honestly, probably now I could go back and beat it even without it. So that would be a thing. But still, yeah, I've been pretty much trying for a long time to complete those, and we'll be continuing it with LB6. I've had a lot of people in chat say, oh, the run's going to end in 6, but we'll just have to see, right? Having Castoria definitely makes it a lot more interesting. I'm sure there's going to be 1 or 2 fights that chat may or may not know about that are going to give me a hard time. In LB5, there was a very particular one, not the one that chat thought was going to give me a hard time, but it ended up resorting in basically like a Squirtoria double John ruler comp there in order to be able to get through it, and it worked. It just was really painful and super close all the time throughout that fight. But again, we're pretty much at a point now where the Saberfaces are all like done and taken care of. I just have a couple last little bit ones to get, obviously coming out this year, and a couple more in order to do. I can probably also, I'm getting close to being able to pull the trigger of just luring all of them. Having the lures and still being able to tend to the rest of my account has been a little bit of an issue over time, because I'm someone that rolls a lot of units in the grand scheme of things. But again, you guys can see most of them are taken care of, so we've done a really good job. Even a unit like Mixa here, who takes meteor shards, has been pretty much immediately maxed because I knew she was coming. I pre-farmed for her, and I made sure to get that done. But again, if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'd be happy to answer them. This has been a labor of love my entire time in FGO, and I'm going to continue with it and keep getting them even more grailed and even more powerful. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys for the next one.